Writing a song is like baking a cake. You gather a list of ingredients, measure them out to the required weight, mix them together, and then put them in the oven. In a similar way, songs are a collection of smaller parts, such as chords and melodies. Different songs use different recipes and methods, but ultimately they all arrive at an end product. And just like a baker needs their utensils, you need the right tools for the job of songwriting. So in this video, I'm going to reveal 4 tools that a beginner songwriter needs. I'll show you how they'll help you to write your first song, and while they'll change your songwriting forever. It used to take me months to write a song. I'd collect scraps of ideas on pieces of torn paper, if I could be bothered to write them down at all. Then when I wanted to write a song, I'd think, aha, all I have to do is find my paper full of ideas and this smash hit song will flow onto the page. But the problem was I couldn't always find all of the notes I thought I'd written down. And the ones I did have were missing crucial information, if I could read them at all. How fast was I supposed to play these chords? What kind of strumming pattern would I use on the guitar? What key was I working with for this idea? All of this meant that when I sat down to write a full song, I'd often start fresh and write as much as I could down into a notebook. So a lot of these great ideas were lost forever. I had the same problem with songwriting with one of my bandmates. We'd jam together and come up with some good ideas that we wanted to save for later. But only having pen and paper to hand, a lot of the nuance and detail would get lost over time. And when we wanted to practice again, we didn't have a good reference point and the original song would be lost. This all changed when me and my friend took a songwriting course. We wanted to get some help with our craft as we were taking it much more seriously. And while the course offered interesting information about the expected things, like chord progressions and melody development, it also offered one piece of pure gold. A website where you could create and store musical ideas. A tool that had music theory baked in, so you could focus on being creative and not worry about anything else. The perfect support for a new and aspiring songwriter, which allowed me and my songwriting friends to quickly create and share ideas. It's called HookPad and it's completely free to get started. There's a link in the description if you want to check it out. I always recommend HookPad for songwriters, whether they are brand new to the craft or more seasoned pros. It allows you to quickly see what chords are in a key and add them to your song. Then once you have some chords selected, you can see what notes are in each chord. This makes writing complementary melodies a breeze. You have a range of playback sounds to fit your style of music, and you can also add lyrics. These are syllable matched to any melodies you write, which gives you a great visual representation of your song. You can also sort your song into different sections and rearrange the structure easily and simply. You can then save the song and export it as a score or a tab, or you can simply share a link with someone else, which makes collaboration straightforward. There are loads more options if you want to go deeper with HookPad. Start exploring today with the link in the description. This will change the way you create songs for the better. Have you got any songwriting tool suggestions? Let me know in the comments below. One big problem for songwriters is inspiration. Even with all of the help that a tool like HookPad offers, sometimes you just can't seem to come up with any fresh ideas. So what can you do in this situation? What I used to do was listen to some of my favourite songs. The idea wasn't to try and imitate the songs, but just to see if it unlocked any new ways of thinking about my music. The issue came up if I wanted to try out a similar sound. Without working more on my ear training, I needed to look up the chords or notes for the song. This was time consuming and took away from the energy of songwriting. Well, the next tool can help you with this problem. It's called the Theory Tab Database. It's curated by the same people who make HookPad and offers tens of thousands of song tabs. You can instantly listen to the song's chords and melody played on piano or along with the YouTube video. You can then open these directly into HookPad if you want a great starting point for a new song. Now, you obviously need to be careful with directly copying other songs, particularly melodies and lyrics. But what I find useful is looking for patterns you can apply for your own music. For example, how often do the chords change? And what progressions are being used? Are there any interesting rhythmic elements in the melody that I can reuse? This is what inspiration is all about. Parts of songs that you find interesting can influence your own music and get you out of a creative rut. There's a link to the Theory Tab database in the description below. It's completely free and a huge resource to supplement your songwriting. Having access to this world of music knowledge will definitely be a game changer for your songwriting. One of my favourite parts of the songwriting process is creating new chord progressions. If you've seen any videos on this channel before, you'll know I've covered these extensively, and for good reason. They are a great starting point for new songwriters, allowing you to easily shape the sound and feel of your song. But a problem many people have is they create the first few chords for a progression or song and then become stuck, or they keep defaulting to tried and tested sequences and then all of your songs sound the same. You can use the Theory Tab database to get inspiration as previously mentioned, but there is another way to navigate this resource that is a real game changer. It's called Theory Tab Trends. Again, it's completely free and I'll link it in the description. When you start, all the action is on the left-hand side of the page. Use the drop-downs to select the key of your song, then click on the first chord you have. For example, C major. You'll then see a list of songs that contain that chord, and this diagram which gives you options for the next chord, with percentages of songs that use those chords in that order. Now click on the next chord. I'll go for F major and then G major. You can then pick one of the next chords to try in your song and continue the process, or you can move across to the song list. For example, I'll click on Space Oddity by David Bowie. Now you can see that song load up on the right, where you can play the song if you want. So in this example, maybe I'd try an A major chord after C, F and G. There's also another option within Trends which is really useful. If under the key letter you select Rel at the top, then you get a slightly different view. Now you're presented with options labelled as Roman numerals. This pulls all of the songs for that key type and shows you how different types of chord function relative to one another. This is where Roman numeral chord analysis is really useful. For example, if you've ever heard someone refer to a progression as 1-4-5, then this is what they mean. And if this is confusing for you, then I'll link a playlist at the end of this video to help you out. As before, if you click on a chord, it'll open up and keep presenting options by popularity and then songs containing those chords in that order. Remember that these aren't just basic major and minor chords. And if you click Other, you'll be presented with all sorts of choice. This is great for exploring new chords and ideas. But what if you already have part of a progression, but you're not sure what key it's in? What do you do then? There's another useful songwriting tool called Chord Scale Finder, which is part of a wider website called Scales Chords. That is another game changer for beginner songwriters. I'll put a link in the description for you. To use this for yourself, next to chord key, select the letter of your chord. That is the root note of the chord. Then next to chord type, select what sort of chord it is. So if I wanted to select my C, F and G major chords, again it would look like this. You can get more detailed with your options if you want, including certain types of scales and certain types of chords. This can be useful if maybe you can only play a few chords on guitar, for example, and just want to see things which you will be able to use. When you are ready, press Find Suggestions. You'll now be presented with a list of potential chords for your progression. You can click on the speaker icon and preview them right on the page if you want to. The most useful thing is if you scroll down a bit. On the left hand side you'll see scales that fit your chord. Think of these like your key and hook pad. So the first result here is C major, and we know the chords I chose are in the key of C major, so this makes sense. Then on the right are the suggested chords, and depending on the options you chose initially, you'll see different types of chords here. They are organised by how many notes are in the chord, which is useful for sorting through which ones you can play comfortably on your instrument. Now if you come across a chord you like the sound of, but you can't find it in HookPad, then don't panic. You can click on search and then type in the chord name, and you'll be able to add it to your song, regardless of whether it's in the key or not. This opens up a whole world of opportunity for your songs. You now have the ability to use any chord you like in a systematic and interesting way. This will change everything for your songwriting, giving you endless variations at your fingertips. The problem is that all of these options can become overwhelming. Sometimes with songwriting, less is more. You need to take these tools and use them in the right way to become a better songwriter. I'll show you how to do that with the playlist on screen. Watch that next to write your first song.